Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City is an ambitious adaptation that was destined to fail after it chewed much more than any one film could possibly chew. The adaptation of two extremely iconic and lengthy survival horror video games managed to pull off an entertaining ride. However, for everything the film got right, which wasn't much, it exponentially mistook cinematic cosplay for proper fidelity. If you were here for the first video containing parts 1 and 2 of my Welcome to Raccoon City series, welcome back. But also,
shut the hell up for a second and listen.
Let's begin part 3 with the film's computer-generated imagery, or CGI.
What the hell?
It's terrible. The Cerberus looks terrible, the liquor looks good, but it only makes me suspect that all of the CGI budget went into it. And it does benefit from the darkness of the scene. Everywhere else, the CGI just sticks out terribly. Alright, terrible might sound a little hyperbolic, but this was advertised as the most faithful and best live-action Resident Evil adaptation. The terrible CGI is a shame because, as I stated previously, the film does look really good. The worst part about this is that the behind the scenes show some really solid practical effects on zombies and Lisa Trevor. But it does seem that these practicals were retouched with CGI at some point that makes the zombies look way too smooth and unnatural. And not unnatural in an undead kind of way, unnatural in a it just looks bad kind of way. Reminds me of what happened to the Thing prequel. Though not perfect, Lisa's practical looks so much better than the finished product. Her mask looks worn, weathered, and of course, filthy. It's disgusting, and resembles what real skin would look like after decades of wear and tear, especially when neglected. I can just smell the mustiness from here. But in film, it looks too clean, smooth, glossy, and soft, as if Lisa's been moisturizing the mask all these years. Shy guy looking boy. Maybe it's just the lighting that's throwing me off. But also, you're telling me that no nurses, doctors, security guards, or orphans have come across her just waltzing about? But this entire opening could just be a false memory. Birkin's transformation is laughable. All of it. Rendell looking boy. And his final transformation was just baffling. What were they even going for? And why did it look so heinous? Leonard looking boy. Lord Set looking boy. There's also something quite silly looking and not at all threatening about his first transformation while wearing a t-shirt as opposed to a lab coat. It's just funny, I don't know what it is. The Cerberus, Birkin's final form, and Lisa all looked heinous in the trailers, but I figured they were just unfinished because, you know, trailers. But no, this is it. The cast and director are more than happy and quick to announce their admiration for the games and characters. They express their desire to provide a faithful adaptation that represents the games with which they grew up. According to the director himself,
they gave us the actual blueprints of the mansion and the police station. So
this grossly exaggerates the authenticity and expectations for the film. Any fan of the games can recreate the Spencer Mansion's main hall and the RPD lobby from memory. Okay, not every detail, but at least the basic layouts, which are the only true to game sets that we see in the film, and which are the only details that a blueprint would provide. The rest of what we do see from the RPD is just generic offices. Chief Iron's office, generic. The briefing / stars / West Wing office, yeah, they're all basically relegated to the same office. Generic. But Anderson Ghost, didn't you say in the good things section that combining 3 different settings into one set piece was a good call by the filmmakers? Yes, but that setting looked great. Very Resident Evil-y, if you will. Why couldn't this briefing have taken place in the STARS office? Because the chief is briefing, well, you know, the STARS. Leon's welcome sign, though nice to see, could have been included elsewhere. This generic office manages to combine 2 very distinct and iconic locations from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 with the briefing room to create one boring grandma's musty basement looking room. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this lack of personality is exactly what Shinji Mikami was trying to avoid when he decided to restart work near completion of the original Resident Evil 2's development way back in 1998. The orphanage is nothing alike, besides the main gate. And for such a small set piece, the film really managed to make this into another generic set piece. Especially when its inclusion in the film was at best questionable. But I get it. The orphanage was an addition to the lore, welcomed by fans akin to Lisa Trevor in Resident Evil 1 remake. So it was still very fresh in people's minds, including my own. I was really excited, even with low expectations for this film, to see all of these locations brought to life. Then we see the RPD lobby and something seemed off. Upon learning of the blueprint acquisition, I wanted to believe that the entire lobby was a set. A practical set. But I just could not let it go. I had to see the behind the scenes and voila. Green screen. Yeah. That's what the fire truck I thought. So what was the point of acquiring the blueprints? Measurements? By this point, it seems they could have just copy and pasted the actors onto actual gameplay. Speaking of the actors, I understand that casting a vast ensemble of actors that match each character perfectly isn't always feasible, and budget constraints do complicate ensuring that each actor secured can actually act. Furthermore, the frugality of video game to live action adaptations has such a bad rap that budgeting these films is typically minimal, but at least try to make them look similar. And I don't mean just outfit them to look similar, I mean their actual looks, which you would think should be easier, right? You really couldn't get a little blonde girl and put her in a schoolgirl uniform? Whoa, not like that. You couldn't have Wesker grow out his hair just a little bit longer and slick it back? You couldn't give Jill a haircut, at least straighten it out? I know Inessa's hair was long in the OG Resident Evil 1, but it has since been canonized as a bob cut, as such. Leon's hair has proven difficult to pull off before.
What the fuck is that?
But at least shave his face. The actor could have possibly pulled off a better Leon just going off of past headshots alone.
And get a haircut, you goddamn hippie.
Me with a tape nail me in the face.
You moron.
And Claire... oh, Claire. How difficult is it to just put her hair in a ponytail? You don't even have to straighten it out. Besides the bright red, sometimes sleeveless jacket, Claire's trademark is her ponytail. So I ask, why is Jill in a ponytail and Claire with her hair down? See, it's these little details, people. I guess Chris looks okay, except for his missing combat knife, but that's just a nitpick. I don't want to get too much into Chief Irons in this video. Well, not as much as Chief Irons would like to get into Catherine Warren. So I'll just say that Donald Logue is far too likable to adequately pull off a sus Chief Irons. Just like their video game counterparts, films can incentivize rewatchability via the careful insertion of Easter eggs and references. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is a prime example of this phenomena. Their Easter eggs are legendary in the pop culture community. Films based on comics, books, comic books, video games, real life, other films, or even theme park rides are known to include these forms of wink-wink and nods to audiences through visuals and/or dialogue. They can be a really clever manner for production to remind audiences that they are just as much a fan of the source material as we are. One of work's major problems is that it's trying to cram as many Easter eggs and references as it possibly can, regardless of logic or storytelling necessity. Oh, right. So this is probably a good time to clarify that I have decided to refer to this film as work. Saying Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, or even just Welcome to Raccoon City, over and over is just going to sound obnoxious. So I'll be referring to it as the film, or simply work. Cool? Cool. It wants everything to be front and center. Egghead or stuffed doll or egghead doll, this ugly William Shatner looking thing, in your face. The Ashford twins, in your face. Itchy Tasty, in your face. If you're hungry, ho, just eat your baby. He's right there. Now don't do that. Instead of showing us how big fans they are, it seems as though they simply Googled Resident Evil Easter eggs. Some of these are even included twice. The Egghead doll, twice. The Ashford twins, twice. Yeah, if for some reason you didn't know these were supposed to be the Ashford twins, here's the film cover. I did praise the Easter eggs and references in the good section. I stand by those. Those were intertwined with the narrative the film was telling. The Moonlight Sonata reference propelled Wesker's story forward, as did the suit keys with Claire. The problem is that some of these not only do not need to be here, but they use up valuable runtime that could have otherwise been used to flesh out our protagonists. The Ashford Twins video is supposed to be setting up for a sequel. Beyond that, it has no relevance or reverence to the plot presented. The twins go unexplored and unexplained. Worse yet, is that they are presented during a moment where Claire should be making some sort of relevant discovery about Umbrella. Remember how in Resident Evil 1, the Keeper's Diary chronicled his slow descent into madness after coming in contact with the T-Virus? How his diary gave us an insight into how the T-Virus corrupts and decays the mind? What I'm saying is, this hoe looks way too calm and collected as she writes Itchy Tasty. We spent no time with her, thus, we have no connection nor investment. We know nothing about her. We knew nothing of the Keeper either, but that's what the diary did. Flesh him out some. Also, Claire straight up leaves that little boy behind. Was he baiting Claire for her mama to get her? Did he also try to attack her in between scenes? Or was he hiding from Mama Infected as well? Claire just nopes out of there knowing full well that Mama has gone insane. I thought Claire was supposed to be our hero. Would it not have made more sense if Itchy Tasty came from this hoe? Someone with whom we actually spend a little bit of time, and whom we see later on as the virus has progressed within her nervous system. Imagine this. Instead of ignoring a glaring eye bleed, we see her struggling to perform her duties, very clearly toughing out a migraine. The heat of the grill and other kitchen appliances only aggravating her condition further. Stepping out of sight, she scratches her arm until she breaks the skin. Panicking only for a split second, she stares at her bloody fingernails, shaking, salivating. It's only a call from one of the officers that finally snaps her out of it. She fumbles the checks as the officers, clearly in a rush, simply place their money on the counter and exit the diner. As she collects herself, we get a clear view at one of the checks and realize what she has been writing all along. Itchy. Tasty. Her intrusive thoughts have won. See, there is a difference between world building and just copy and pasting. For all of the pre-infected zombies that we see, we don't know any of them. Not the waitress, not the little boy. So if we're not meant to invest empathy towards the Raccoonites, why not just thrust us into the actual zombie apocalypse? Quicker. But I get it. They really wanted to include the Itchy Tasty and You Need Help references. Again, not everything from the lore needs to be included as an Easter egg or reference. When it doesn't complement the plot, it just comes off as obnoxious. Though I will admit, I completely missed this green herb the first time around, and the second time around. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize it was meant to be a green herb until it was specifically pointed out in the behind the scenes. So I guess, good job film, you did a good Easter egg. Work focused more attention on aesthetics than it did on character fidelity. While a live-action recreation of the Ashford twins video is nice to see, it is an unnecessary inclusion in this film. The film cover is more than enough of an Easter egg. This scene also proves that including Lisa Trevor at all in this film was completely unnecessary. Again, this simple bio page is more than enough of a nod for fans, especially when her character was underutilized and utilized in out-of-character context.
Dobby is free.
And dare I say, Netflix's awful Resident Evil series implemented this reference better as well. Lisa's appearance there serves as an Easter egg to fans, as a shocking discovery for the girls, and as character development for Black Wesker. Blade Wesker. Good guy Wesker. R.I.P. Lance Reddick. You truly were the real MVP of that series. One of the many reasons that Easter eggs are kept in the background is to keep the story from feeling bloated. Including too many elements in a project can result in certain elements not receiving enough exploration or going completely unresolved. It can confuse the casual attendee and irk the committed fanbase. A film is supposed to tell a complete story, even when part of a larger franchise. Work feels more like a carnival ride at times, just going from one reference to the next, never settling in one story beat long enough to properly flesh it out. Did we really need 2 scenes at the orphanage? Did Lisa need to be in this film at all? And what happened to her after assisting Claire and Leon? Did she perish in the blast? Will she be in a sequel? If so, why? Why alert the city of an emergency if the point is to quarantine and dispose of them? Remember how in the games the quarantine was due to the T-virus leaking and then used as an excuse by Umbrella to test their bioorganic weapons? Why inoculate the police force if they are not a part of Umbrella? What makes them special enough to receive such consideration? They aren't being used for combat testing at the Spencer Mansion, nor are they being employed as part of the quarantine efforts. The only answer I can think of as to why Umbrella delayed sanitation is to allow ample time for VIPs to vacate the city. But if they are VIPs, why would they not be provided escorts to ensure a rapid and secure extraction? If you don't alert the entire city, then you don't have to worry about any problems with a quarantine. which would free up Hunk and his unit to provide the escort services. And can you guess the implications that could have had? We could have gotten the classic Umbrella betrays Birkin scene. These, along with the majority of Work's flaws, can be attributed to the ill-advised amalgamation of the first two games into a compressed storyline. Video game adaptations have a reputation of low quality and short runtimes, as if studios are self-fulfilling these prophecies of failure by mitigating costs through the runtime. Contrary to film adaptations, video games are notoriously lengthy, except for Resident Evil 3 Remake. So it seems almost unfathomable for a fanbase to accept that any video game experience can be compressed into a little over an hour and a half of runtime, especially if adapting not one but two lengthy titles. Resident Evil deserves at least a 10-episode per season show, per game title. 10 episodes might sound like a bit too much, but definitely enough time for adequate world building, proper atmosphere, and of course, adequate character development. I understand, sometimes having too much material for reference available can seem overwhelming. Another glaring flaw plaguing Work is that along with doubling the titles adapted, it also doubles the amount of protagonists portrayed. And Resident Evil has 2 protagonists per title adapted, equal to 4 main characters in one film. Some films struggle to do justice to just one character, let alone 4, in an hour and a half film. Including too many protagonists within such a limited amount of time isn't so much of an issue on its own, but it can result in some fan favorites being relegated to secondary or tertiary status. Hence Jill and Leon's ill-advised portrayals. Not one character is properly fleshed out. Not even Chris feels like a main character. Not to mention that despite the expertly crafted tension in certain scenes, we already know who's gonna make it out safely and who the red shirts are. An audience typically needs at least one main character with whom to relate or simply to follow along. Another problem with having too many protagonists is that all of the good qualities can easily be assigned to that one main character. And welcome to Raccoon City, that character is Claire. And that's not a complaint. I actually wholeheartedly agree with this decision. Claire is the only one of our 4 main characters with no form of law enforcement or formal weapons training. Leon is incompetent in the film, but has gone through the academy. Chris and Jill are members of STARS, so yeah. Now, Chris trained Claire a little bit in the game canon, and she was alluded to being able to take care of herself in film. Still, Claire's inexperience is ripe for high-stakes drama, an average person against monsters. Unfortunately, Work assigns all of the good quality traits to her. She is the only competent character in the film. Everyone else is either naive or incompetent. The decision to make her a gun-toting BA, who is the only one aware of Umbrella's corruption and is willing to take them down, defeats the purpose of an everyman, every woman, every person. Yeah. Nullifies the drama created by having an average person take down monsters created by other monsters.
Message!
She may have well been a member of STARS at this point. This is coincidentally what happened with Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil films. He gradually included legacy characters, but assigned all of their good qualities to Alice. An abundance of main characters is also affecting the game canon. There are just too many main characters, which is probably the biggest reason that Jill has been MIA since Resident Evil 5. Hashtag bring back Hunting Ground Jill. But getting back to Work, most of the film is based on Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. 2 games that transpired primarily in confined spaces and do not exactly show the wide extent of Raccoon City. Remember this? Yeah. Last time, I expressed that this was an unnecessary plotline, and guess what? I still feel that way. What was the point of this Raccoonite exodus, if you will? If production's concern was not having enough actors to make the city seem populated, just reuse the actors. You really couldn't outfit some of them in police uniforms? Just a few more to make the RPD seem a little more populated? You didn't even have to show us an actual apocalypse. Just allude to it. The dialogue and exposition delivery in Work seems way too lazy for anyone who actually cares about Resident Evil or writing in general. Leon's dialogue is terrible.
I'm a rookie, right?
Jill's dialogue, terrible. Chris's dialogue, terrible. Claire's dialogue is okay. Wesker's dialogue is hilarious, unintentionally, and so forth and so forth. For example.
Still sandwich now.
No, it isn't.
You're just gonna leave us.
Leave who? A special unit in a deserted town? Frat House Wesker at least has a dream.
To have a dream.
It was just a way of getting out of this small town, dead-end life.
What are you doing, Joe Valentine? Are you bringing commerce back to Raccoon City?
No, bitch!
Which brings up another point. Why does this Raccoon City need a special tactics and rescue service? In-game Raccoon City was already pushing it, but live-action Raccoon City is practically deserted. And again, Works Stars officers are not being used for gathering combat data. There is no spike in crime or mysterious cannibalistic attacks that would merit maintaining such a specialized unit. Wouldn't Stars be among the first to go after budget cuts? Point is, there is nothing special about this tactics and rescue service unit. But also,
What are you talking about?
did you not hear what he just said about Umbrella having dirty secrets?
Getting hold of whatever dirty secrets Umbrella are keeping down there and exposing them.
He's not leaving anybody, he's investigating a new passage that just opened. It's called game progression, Jill. Go with him, goofy girl. I thought you were supposed to be loyal.
She's very loyal.
I'd leave you too, whiny girl. Happy girl. Wesker's dialogue is childish.
It's like I might be getting late.
Really? The guy who looks like this is childishly excited about getting laid? Well, this is a small town, so. Birkin's dialogue is unsettling, but not in a creepy way, in a weird uncle kind of way.
Chris, come out and play.
Maybe that is what they were going for. What was this line supposed to mean?
Did you really believe you could be part of my family?
It's been like a father to me. After you ran away, William was the closest thing I had to family. I owe this town, I owe Birkin and Umbrella everything. They raised me, put me through school, the academy.
You kind of were like family. Did Chris want to be a member of the Birkins? Christopher Birkin? Christopher Dracula looking boy. But also, why? There was no bond established between these two, outside of these two lines. Or did he mean the Umbrella family? Because why would someone like Birkin do everything that he did for Chris, only for him to not use Chris as a mole or something?
Oh, such a sweet little soldier. Such a loyal little drone.
How? He didn't use Chris as an Umbrella operative, he didn't use this connection to guilt trip him or to create conflict with Claire in any way in the final battle. Maybe Chris was used for testing, but that's never explained. As a matter of fact, Birkin exposits the opposite.
You know, I should have taken you and your sister down to the lab. You would have made excellent specimens.
If Birkin saw something special in Chris, something special enough to merit schooling, the academy, and all that jazz, wouldn't that make him a prime candidate for tyrant experimentation in Birkin's eyes? Or was this Birkin's eventual plan for Chris? This relationship, as it's presented to us in film, would have worked leagues better with Birkin and Wesker. Having Birkin raise, mentor, and use Wesker as an inside man would have added layers to his eventual betrayal. Instead, all we get is weak trash talk.
I hate orphans.
Shut the fuck up.
As undoubtedly hilarious as Donald Logus, his dialogue as Chief Irons is just cringe-inducing. Don't get me wrong, Logue does a fantastic job delivering these lines. They're just not good lines.
If y'all shut the hell up for a second and listen.
Listen to what? You just got here and you haven't said a word. But if you thought he was just being impatient with his immature subordinates, he then proceeds to waste time by roasting Wesker with an extremely telegraphed burn.
Sounds like I might be getting late.
But it ain't gonna happen tonight.
And this whole briefing was a waste of time. All he said was,
I wanna know where the hell Bravo team is and what the fuck all those alarms are about.
this could have been an email. An America Online instant message. He also just straight up shoots a guy who, for all anyone but the audience knew, required medical assistance.
Yo, we just gave him some help.
And Leon doesn't even question it. He does ask for an ambulance, but he doesn't question why the chief shot the burn victim of an accident without first providing aid.
What's happening to them?
They're probably protesting the shooting of an innocent burned victim by the RPD's corrupt chief of police, sir. That's what's happening to them. Leon, stupid. Kennedy. And let's not gloss over the fact that Claire suggested they get guns before even addressing the crowd. We know they're infected, but they don't. Correction, they don't know that they're infected with a zombie virus. Claire knows they're infected with something that is making them sick. I know she watched Ben's home video at least twice. He makes no mention of zombies or monsters, only that they are being poisoned. And Claire's suggested method of administering a cure for that poison is via 12-gauge buckshot. The obvious response to that statement is that Claire has dealt firsthand with these infected, but she hasn't. It's called adrenaline, Claire. It's a crazy thing. Yeah, that child seemed okay, all things considered. The mama simply seemed a little crazy. And sickly. Remember, poisoned. And the guy in the jail cell? He could have just been asking Leon for help. Claire just walked downstairs. How could she know the situation? No, get off of him first? To de-escalate the situation? Maybe he's just combative after having been locked in an underground cell. He could have been the person yelling for help for all she knows. We know what just happened. She does not. They don't exchange pertinent information they acquire, and they don't attempt to help anyone beyond this little Friday the 13th looking boy. These are our heroes. The shoot people first kind. And that's not the last time this happens.
What the fuck happened to him?
What happened to him? That's your question? Not, why did you shoot this man, who has clearly been in an accident and is in serious need of medical aid? No other questions about what just happened? I could almost let the chief slide with shooting a civilian because he could have received a phone call or something in between scenes explaining the situation. And he is at least a little bit sus in the film. But Wesker? He's been shown to be a legitimate good guy, not a shoot-first kind, a la Jill, whom he reprimands for this exact action earlier in the film.
Really? Someone should confiscate that.
He doesn't know the situation with the infected. Keep in mind that this is the first and only zombie he encounters throughout the film. He could not have known that this guy was a zombie. And speaking of this guy, where did he come from? He wasn't in the library before the chopper explosion. He wasn't on the chopper when it crashed. And if he was, shouldn't he have blown up in the explosion? At first, I thought it was Brad because that would make sense, but it isn't. He's still on his seat. And this dude is wearing an umbrella uniform.
What the fuck happened to him?
He was shot by a police officer after being involved in an accident, miss. That's what happened to him. But this is the elite STARS officer, Jill Valentine, who shot an innocent crow after minimal reasoning. Just because it isn't human doesn't mean its life is worth less. At least Leon's shooting of his partner was accidental. Or was it? So what's the point of roasting Leon for this accident? He seems to fit right in. Maybe that's the real cover-up. There are no monsters or illegal experiments. The real reason that Raccoon City and the police department are empty is because the police force is really out here just shooting accident victims, burned victims, protesters, injured animals, cancer patients, and fellow police officers. They're really out here just shooting innocent people and animals all over the place, yo.
Niggas is wildin'!
Okay, that one might actually make sense. The exposition delivery is lazy. From the trucker at the beginning of the film.
What are you doing out hitchhiking on a night like this anyway? Oh yeah, going to see your brother, you said. Used to live here, you said.
How about, instead of a recap, you just show us the actual conversation?
What are you doing out hitchhiking on a night like this anyway?
I came to find my brother, Chris.
To Leon's characterization, one of my pet peeves in film is mandatory fun. Making the completely normal conversations that military and police units have and making them sound as unnatural as possible. It happens in every military movie. You can tell when it's actually natural and when it's scripted, depending on the actor's acting capabilities. Both stars' bonding scenes come off as forced camaraderie, except for Jill's philosophically existential inquiry. That is definitely a type of question that someone would ask in this type of scenario. These scenes are supposed to provide us characterization of our protagonists, give us a reason to care for them, but it completely derails by showing us a childish Wesker, a sassy Jill who can outthink problems with clever solutions that doesn't pay off, an NPC Chris, and an inconsequential Richard. I suppose that one does pay off. Not to mention the absolutely heinous use of the unnecessary expletives.
thought of that guy.
Fuck this.
Don't get me wrong, a few F-bombs here and there really do elevate the emotions of certain scenes.
I've been talking to this guy in a chat room.
What the fuck's a chat room?
It's a place on the internet where people chat.
What the fuck are you doing here, Leon?
What the fuck?
If the exposition delivery feels lazy, imagine receiving the same lazy exposition twice. 2 stars establishing scenes, 2 Leon introductions, 2 Redfield establishing scenes, 2 title cards. Okay, I understand what they were going for with the title cards. Include the entire title of the movie, but that's just lazy editing. Who edited this film? Me? Double the exposition, and most of this happens almost immediately after the first instance. Did we need to see Leon hung over in his hotel room and then get the same basic idea at the diner? And speaking of the diner, this scene delivers exposition that could have been delivered at the RPD briefing scene without dragging both of these 2 scenes on. Would it not have been better to deliver these lines at the RPD and make use of the Welcome Leon sign and then get Bravo Team's exposition, which would make Leon's presence in the briefing room a lot more logical instead of him being just too many bad words for YouTube? Also, did you guys know that this was supposed to be Enrico Marini? Yeah, I missed that the first time around. He was even name dropped a few times, but it didn't click until I saw it on the credits list, and I was like, hold up, who the hell was Enrico? But really work, this is Enrico? You reduce the second in command of stars to some random guy with 0 lines? He isn't even in charge of Dooley. Why? Is it really that difficult to just name this guy Richard and have Richard be Joseph? What makes Richard more special than Joseph? Was it because he sacrificed himself for Chris or Jill in the game? Well, he doesn't do that here. Claire and Ben deliver practically the same exposition, and Ben delivers most of the same exposition twice, once in the tape and then again to Leon. Sure, we get a little extra the second time around. His only true contributions is implying that the currently uninfected have been secretly inoculated, and the purpose of the viruses. But did we really need 2 scenes with Ben? Everyone's favorite character, Ben? Was the videotape scene really necessary? Was it just a reference to the various VHS tapes we find in Resident Evil 2 Remake? All of this exposition could have been delivered by Ben in only 1 scene, by the film that instead shows the Ashford twins, because why do we need to waste time in this already crammed film by expositing a reference to an inconsequential aspect to this specific plot? Or, you know, by Claire, who is also onto Umbrella, and our primary protagonist? Also, Ben, just shoot this guy. For someone so paranoid, he really has no problem exposing his back to the guy that's, as he says,
it's not fucking okay, man, look at him.
Granted, he may not have been aware of the full extent of the virus. And where was Claire? Just upstairs? Bars. Why not check the basement with Leon? The holding cell isn't deep underground. We can hear Ben through a closed door. So she should be able to hear him with an open door, even if he did stop yelling.
See what else I can find.
Nothing. She found nothing. Because she comes down with the exact same gear she had when we last saw her. Also, who places an armory directly next to holding cells? Yes, there's another door on the other side, but this is still one hell of a security risk. Especially when the keys are right at that desk, apparently. And the police department is heavily undermanned. Seriously, I know that budget cuts were mentioned, but where is the rest of the police force? Are there really only less than 10 police officers on the graveyard shift, including the chief? Budget cut so bad, RPD can't even afford their own Cerberus. According to this IMDb trivia, the studio insisted on diversity. This is what led to the unnecessary race swapping of 2 main characters. The race swapping would not have been so bad had they at least stayed true to the characters. Unfortunately, they're both used as comic relief. One a loose cannon, and the other one a complete idiot, to put it as nicely as possible. This is not good for diversity. At this point, neither of them is Jill or Leon. The biggest issue with Work's insistence on diversity is that we already have diverse characters. Not many, but they do exist. Where is Marvin? A good portion of the film is set in the RPD, and Marvin is one of the characters tied to it. His fate is intertwined with practically every storyline that transpires at the RPD. Not only is he a recognizable character, he is helpful, and more importantly, he's very likable. He was even named Officer of the Month. why not include Kenneth instead of Richard or Dooley? Is it because both Marvin and Kenneth faced terrible fates in the games and they didn't want to kill off minority characters? How about don't kill off these characters, or extend their role? The film's already taking extensive liberties.
Move this man!
So why not for once, let Marvin live? I know. But again, work is already taking drastic liberties with the source material. Why not extend Ada's role to the main film? Which reminds me, this girl is cast as Ada, and Marina Mazepa is cast as Lisa and the Licker. The girl who resembles Ada Wong from Resident Evil 2 the most is hidden behind heavy makeup. Sure, Marina may not have been as experienced, but Ada's role is so tiny and the acting is so bad all around that I don't think anybody would have noticed. What's that? She isn't Chinese? Neither is Ada. Her origins are unconfirmed because super secret spy and all we know of Ada's origins is that she is of Asian descent. And while Marina may not be of Asian descent, she certainly looks the part better than #NotMyAda. While gathering footage for this video, I came across whatever this is. Now, at the expense of coming off as simping, because I've probably praised Marina Mazepa a little too much, you tell me, does this not give off strong Ada vibes? And let's not sleep on my dog, Rebecca Chambers. While I'm not sure about her racial composition, and despite her very European name, her likeness is based on Ayumi Yamasaki, a Japanese pop star, so it's safe to reason that she could be, at the very least, of mixed race. There's also Jim Chapman, Mark Wilkins, Yoko Suzuki, or, you can just make some up. And that's only if we're referring to diversity in the racial sense. So if diversity is so crucial to the film, why not just create some original black characters? And then kill them off first. This film casts many Canadian and British actors as American characters based on resemblance alone, and one Canadian-Egyptian dude to play also an American. Again, I like to see actors resemble characters to a T, but infinitely more importantly, I would like for them to embody the characters. So, although I did in fact enjoy most of the costuming and set design, if it absolutely has to be a choice between cosplay or Fidelity, I go with Fidelity every time.
We've really tried to inject all the little details from the games in the form of props, sets, costumes, and make them feel as though this is an adaptation that has really been faithful to its source material.
Well, you failed on that. It's these little story beats, character traits, and retcons to the timeline that give me the impression that Work's admiration of the source material is at the very least exaggerated. Because even with all of these flaws, the biggest sacrilege in the film is, of course, the character assassination. I didn't go into character flaws much, because that deserves an entirely separate video on its own. And if you want to know what I mean by character assassination, join me next time where I go in depth into how each character, from the truck driver to your favorite protagonist, was absolutely butchered by Welcome to Raccoon City. If you enjoyed this video and would like to start my Welcome to Raccoon City series from the beginning, be sure to click on the link in the description or the appropriate end card to watch the video containing parts 1 and 2. There, I summarize the film and discuss the aspects that I believe the film did particularly well. For now, I have to go. I love you. Bye!